Before we dive into this episode, we wanted to take the opportunity to say a heartfelt thank you for being here. Whether you've been with us from the very beginning when we started this podcast in 2019 or you're new, welcome.
We hope you enjoy what you hear, and if you do, please download it, share it with friends, and leave a review. It really helps us get better guests and share the midlife love.
This week on Hot Topics, we're not holding back as we dive headfirst into the stories making waves. From the UK workforce health crisis to the rise of AI and what it means for our jobs, the push for digital ID cards, and the shocking Manchester synagogue attack.
We'll also celebrate England women's rugby triumph and share some very exciting personal news. Fair warning, we get emotional, we get opinionated, and yes, there's some swearing, but that's because these conversations matter. Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Mentors with me, James.
And me, Claire. So it's time for another Hot Topics.
Woo! Our second Hot Topics.
Yeah, we said we were going to do them every month, but I think this is 5 weeks ago that we did the last one.
Yeah, we said más o menos.
Más o menos. Exactly. That's Spanish, by the way. By the way, people. How are we all? Well, I just have to say we are very, very lucky that we are running our retreat next week in Ibiza because they've had flooding. Flash flooding.
They have. They've had torrential rain. I'm sure you've seen it. It's been all over the news. People wading through the streets of Ibiza.
Yeah, it's actually been on in the national news. It was so bad.
To the airport.
Yes.
It is all back to normal now.
So thank God, literally thank God we weren't running the retreat this week, which was actually intended. We were supposed to be running it this week, but we put it back by a week. So we have been given a gift from God there, to be honest, that we've avoided that. But what else have we been up to?
Well, you flew solo for the podcast last week. You did an amazing job. You had an incredible response to that. People messaging you, saying how much they loved it.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for all the lovely comments around that. No, it was good. I did miss you, though.
Yeah, I missed you.
Oh.
Well, we've been like ships in the night, I think, for the last few weeks. So I've been really busy. I've got a lot of coaching clients. I'm working for a lot of organisations doing some stuff as well. So that has kept me really busy.
I've had lots of calls.
You've been doing loads of stuff.
Very excited. You're at Paul's Live tomorrow, aren't you?
I am. So if you're listening to this on release day,
tomorrow,
catch me today at Paul's Live. And actually, I'm really pleased to be there. So Paul's Live, as the name suggests, is all around menopause, and it's extended more generally to female reproductive health. It's a great show. Lots of workshops, speakers, exhibitors. I'm actually there on a panel talking about andropause, which is age-related testosterone decline for men, kind of the impacts that can have, why we need to be talking about it, how we can do more to support it, but also touching on, how men can be better menopause allies for women as well. So yeah, looking forward to that show.
Then we're off to run our retreat. Then we're back, and the weekend that we're back, we're at the Home, Life and You show. I'm chairing a panel all around kind of alcohol-free, grey drinking, all that kind of stuff. So I'm hosting that panel with some amazing guests. Then we're doing our own live kind of podcast all around boundary setting and people pleasing. And then I, on the Sunday, am presenting at one of the stages.
You are, which is super exciting.
So I'm presenting one of the stages, which is quite exciting. So
what are we going to talk about today? Well,
yes, topics.
Yeah, there's so much going on in the world we could dive into, isn't there? US government shutdowns, the continuing geopolitical situation, all the rest of it. Now, we don't go mainstream, but I think today we are going to touch on the really horrific and unfortunate events of yesterday in the UK. It was Yom Kippur, Jewish New Year, and there was a terror attack on a synagogue where people
In
sadly lost their
Manchester.
lives.
Yeah, awful.
We're also going to talk about the UK workforce health crisis, what's going on with benefits, the rise of AI and how it appears to be stealing jobs already, digital ID, and then we're going to round it off to some lighter stuff, namely England's women's rugby victory in the World Cup and, drumroll, another award for us.
Ah,
Yes.
yes. But I bet you probably no one really knew about England, if I can get it out, I can't even speak it. England women's rugby that we won.
We
the World
won
Cup.
at Twickenham.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you know that? Did you know that? I didn't
We'll
even
come
know
on to
that.
that.
Yes. Right. Okay. So let's dive in. We're actually going to start with the health crisis in the UK workforce. So James spoke to me about this, and I was like, no, this is crazy. These are some crazy stats. We need to talk about this in Hot Topic. So I will hand over to you just so you can set the scene.
Yeah, in essence, the British Chamber of Commerce has issued a warning saying small businesses can't carry the cost of rising health issues in the workforce because we're hitting record numbers of people off sick. There's now 8 million working age people with limiting conditions. There's a lot of early exit amongst the 50 plus, which won't be surprised. But here's the real shocker. 53.3% of households are now net benefit recipients, which means more than half of the households in the UK are receiving more from the state than they are paying in. So we've crossed a tipping point. And I think, well, given what we're going to talk about with AI and jobs as well, I mean, I don't have the answer to this, but we need to start having a conversation about what is a sustainable model going forward and what is fair in the system. Because if there's a smaller proportion of people, increasingly smaller proportion of people working, and the burden falls on them to provide the money for the people not working, that's clearly not going to be fair and also not going to be sustainable. And I think that begs a bigger question here. So we were talking about this before we came on, record numbers of people signed off sick. So I think we need to understand the data. Are there in reality more people sick in the general population than there were 10 years ago? Or are people now identifying with conditions that in the past, we'd have been told just to get on with it, but now they're being signed off with, saying I'm too anxious to come to work, and that's 2 weeks just not going into work. That's certainly anecdotally the kind of thing I hear. And then I think the third fact is, there are certain sections of society that, okay, if I claiming my universal income, if I'm getting my housing paid, and then I put PIP on the top with a condition, I'm earning way more than I would do if I went out and got a job. So why should I work? And I totally understand that argument. Like if you can earn more sitting at home doing nothing, why would you go to work? But this is a problem, I believe, with the system. And I think that's what needs overhauling.
I also think it's all about sort of where society is right now, right? I see such a problem with the way we are set up in society now, and I think, where do you go with this? I don't have any of the answers, and in any of these hot topics, I don't necessarily think we're going to have the answers. We're just discussing them with you, but there is a lot more. There is a lot more for everyone to be anxious about. The anxiety is very real. I said this in my podcast last week. We're not trying to deny that there's not a lot of pressures, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of burnout that's probably contributing to this. We're not saying that but then, how much is stress, like anxiety, now normalized? It's being normalized as something that we can use as a rationale for taking time out of work. And rather than tackling the issue of why everyone is so anxious and what's really going on behind the scenes, we're just paying out for people being off sick. So it's this whole thing of not tackling the root cause, not even having a conversation about the root cause of why we're the anxious generation right now. What's really going on in society, at work, at home, all of that kind of stuff. So I think that's one thing to
It's definitely.
to
I think
discuss.
it's a big issue. I think it's kind of a structural issue, isn't it? And I listen. I know people running small businesses that they've fallen foul of this. They have taken employees on, and the employees have just like disappeared, effectively ghosted the
Yeah.
business, and just keep saying, "Oh, I'm signed off with stress or with anxiety." And I don't want to minimize that. We do a lot of work around stress, around burnout, around anxiety, and it is a real thing. But then often they're checking social media and seeing these people like out and about and having social lives, but yet they're too anxious to come to work, allegedly.
Mm.
So it's a tough one.
It's a fine line, isn't it? Like
Mm.
we don't want to say that that's not real, and we don't want to, like James said, don't want to minimize what's going on for people because we are on high alert. Like our bodies, our central nervous systems, we're on high alert. Like we understand that, and we do have every reason to feel anxious, but there has to be a question around what's causing that. How can we support people through that rather than just signing them off sick, and then these small businesses collapsing under the weight of it all, and the people that are working taking the burden of economically for all these people. So yeah, I think this is across society generally, like what is, rather than just prescribing pills, it's the same thing. Rather than just prescribing pills, once we're sick, it's kind of like how can we, rather than cure, how can we stop it happening in the first place? How can
Yeah.
we reduce it in the first
I'm gonna
place?
say like I think with this particular subject, the writing has been on the wall for a long, long time, and successive governments have failed to grasp the nettle and deal with it because it's a difficult and unpopular problem to solve. But here is the reality: if we take our heads out the sound, if increasing numbers of people are signed off sick, and the proportion of people taking out rather than paying in increases all the time, it's going to get to a point where the system completely breaks.
And I do think, of course, organisations have a responsibility for delivering well-being in the workplace. Like resilience training, that what we do and what I feel incredibly passionate about, the leadership, resilience, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it can't just be a tick box, and there has to be longevity to that resilience. It has to be a lifestyle thing. It can't just be a yoga session once a month or a bit of breath work. It needs to be an ongoing part of the organization where they're upskilling their employees on how to become more resilient in body, in mind, in spirit. That looks at values, that looks at purpose, all that kind of stuff. But again, it's investing for the work, for the organization. It's investing in their employees, but is the apple so rotten at the core now that it's normalized to take time off for anxiety, stress, and burnout, that wouldn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
I don't
I,
have the
I
answers.
don't have the answer, but I think it's something else that's interesting. I just thought of it's so interesting. This in the past 2 weeks, three separate people have mentioned the issue of ageism to me and how it's becoming more
Mm.
prevalent. So people 50 plus are essentially struggling to get new roles. Yet all the data says that they are more likely to stay in those roles for longer and be more reliable employees than the younger age group. So I'm just throwing that out there that this also seems to be a topic on people's mind, this issue of ageism and this whole section of the workforce being discounted early, because we can carry on working a lot
Mm.
later. Yet the data's saying they're actually, be in some senses better in inverted commas employees.
And I just really want to stress, I suppose, before we move on to the next topic, which I feel like we're about to. Listen, I've experienced burnout. If I had been in an organisation, I certainly would have needed time out. I definitely would have needed it. Um, So again, I just want to say we're not minimizing that. We don't want this to be heard as, if you're burning out and you're stressed and you're anxious, you keep on going, keep on going, keep on going until you break. But the stats are alarming, and there is going to be a grey area in between where people are starting probably to take the piss.
Let's go from one alarming stat to another. So I thought this was fascinating. Someone actually that I know posted this going, this is really interesting. They're looking at it actually from an investment perspective because it was tracking the SPX, which is an American index of small predominantly tech companies, but also something from the US called US non-farm job openings. So essentially that means new jobs that aren't in agriculture. So obviously that is a broad brushstroke. It covers everything from, white collar stuff through to construction, etc., etc. But the fascinating thing was they put a dotted line on that marked when Chat GPT launched, and you've got for job openings, as you expect, with a positive economy and increasing population, it's up and down, but the overall trend is upward. There's now a steep downward trend of job openings from the introduction of Chat GPT, and of course, that's not the only AI out there. There are other AIs. The point is this: that AI has been introduced, and job openings are literally cascading away. Now, we said it's broad brushstrokes, but let's actually be a bit devil's advocate here. Those aren't going to be jobs in construction or manual labor. Those are going to be white collar jobs. And we're hearing this. We're hearing this from organizations we've worked with. They've reduced their hiring budgets. We know the tech firms are laying off people in the tens of thousands. They're not taking new people on because a lot of those entry level roles, AI can now do it.
And so, well, I think also this is really important to say, and we shared this with each other before we started recording. I'm sick of the fear mongering around this. However, it's very real. So we're not sharing this to panic you. I hope we're not. We're not sharing this to make you panic. We're just saying, listen, guys, it's coming. It's not coming. It's already here. Kicking the can down the road and pretending it's not is not very wise.
Yeah.
So what I would say to us beautiful midlifers is we have so many skills. We have so many gifts. So much to offer. Don't think, oh my goodness, this is it for me. It's all downhill. The world's going to end, and I'm going to lose my job and all that kind of stuff. What we would say is use this as an opportunity to think about what you could do next, what skills you have, what gifts you have that you could use where you might work for yourself, or that you might buddy up with someone, or that you might actually, here's the thing that is also true, how could you maybe simplify your life so that you aren't going to be so affected by something that comes down the road? If we're not planning for the future, it's going faster, it's going faster. And if we're not planning for it, we don't want any of you to be sideswiped. So even just now, think about some of the skills you have, how you might be able to use those, some of the contacts you have, what you could put into place as a plan B, because it's always good, especially in today's society, to have a plan B.
I think you need a plan B and a plan C more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And that plan B might mean that tallies alongside simplifying your life. What could consultancy, creativity, all of that sort of stuff. It might mean downsizing your life a little bit, but without the worry and the stress. And we're not saying it's coming at you right now, but it's just something to think about.
Yeah. I don't know why. I'm dimly remembering my history lessons as a child and the Luddites. Remember them?
Yes.
That's when they got the first industrial. I think they were weaving machines, right?
Yes.
And they were like hungry that this was going to take. So they smashed up the first lot of machines.
That's right.
But of course, they didn't stop the progress of the Industrial Revolution. So I think history always gives us a good signpost.
Absolutely. The next one we are going to talk about is
more tech.
Yes, digital ID coming to the UK.
I don't know about you, Claire. This came out of nowhere, right? Keir Starmer suddenly. Well, no, I know I know it's been floating around in the background, but it's not really been mentioned. And then suddenly, Keir's like, "Oh, we're launching digital ID in the UK," out of nowhere.
Yeah. So if you followed any kind of variety of narratives or arguments during the COVID era, this was being floated about even then. Well, we had the NHS app and the COVID ID and all that kind of stuff, didn't we? But this has been floated about. There are some maybe wild, maybe not wild conspiracy theories around the timing of the influx of immigration and then the timing of digital ID being brought in. So I'm not quite sure it's I know what you're saying. From his mouth, it's kind of come out of nowhere. But I think if you can read behind the lines, it might not have come out of nowhere, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I agree with you on that. And let's break it down. Because what essentially does it mean? I think people kind of like think, oh, it's going to mean this like a police authoritarian state. Well, not necessarily. Like here, what is the kind of the arguments for? It will streamline the public sector because I don't know if you've ever had to go into the government gateway and try and retrieve any information and then go get some NHS information. It's multiple logins, it's different sites, everything. So there's an argument for having all of this data in one place. It makes sense. You have one login and you can access any data the government has on you. But I think the next question is, what third parties have access to that data? Will the government be tempted to commercialize it by selling some of that data to commercial entities so that they can target you with more ads? Now, some of you will say, oh, you've already got phones and devices, you those we track. Yes, but it's not all of your personal data like that in one place. And I think it also comes down to the essential thing for me is like, how much do you trust your government? How much do you believe your government is a benevolent government? Because I know
Boom, mic drop.
yeah.
Wow. But yeah, ask yourself that question.
Because I know in places like Scandinavian countries have it, but they have a completely different setup there. They
Yes.
have high levels of trust in each other, in their communities, and in their government. And their governments have largely borne that out. They
Yeah.
actually work to the benefit of their people. I think in the UK, we're a lot more cynical and we've actually seen a lot more stuff happen from governments of all persuasions that we're like, do they always have our best interests at heart?
Pretty corrupt as well, as we've seen. Do what I say, not what I do. Yeah, I think, I think we have to be careful because we don't want to say that we don't agree with it. In the principle, it sounds like it might be great, especially with tackling illegal immigration, which is kind of what it's being set up for. This is the news story as well. But what I worry about is when all of that data is centralized, all of it in one place, like James says. I don't trust our government as far as I can throw them. What are they going to use that for? How might they shift and change what it's used for? They're saying what it's going to be used for now. I don't trust that will always be the case. But also, what happens if that gets hacked? What happens if that gets hacked? And we know we're seeing more hacks all the time, right? From goodness knows where. Let's not go into that. But, we're seeing if someone hacks that, they've then got, once there's centralized data, which will take a while to create. But once that's there, then you have full access to all these people and you can do anything. Once it's hacked, you've got control of it. You can then do anything with their data. You can do anything with their access to their bank accounts, anything, any access to their government gateways, their businesses, whatever. That's what frightens me. And it seems to have frightened quite a few people because there's nearly 3 million people that have now signed the petition.
I think for me, the question is like, how far does it go? Do you end up like so centralized that it's not just your government data, but your bank accounts, everything is all in one interconnected place, and the government has oversight of all of it and can control it. And so could they just restrict your access to certain services as a social punishment, for example? Do we trust our government not to do that?
No.
Exactly. And I think the other thing is, this is all introduced. This is like, oh, this is one of the solutions to the immigration problem. You're like, how?
Is it really?
How? It's going to stop illegal workers. It's illegal to work now, but people still do it. So what the guy running the building site and the guy, I'll pay you 50 quid a day to do brickwork off the books. He's going to stop that if the guy doesn't have digital ID? Of course not. And these people coming here illegally, they're not going to be given some sort of ID that they can access the services they access already. So it's what I object to is the way it's being dressed in kind of emperor's clothes and pushed through. It's something that is actually not.
Yeah, and I hope people don't fall for it. I hope people are awake enough to just ask some questions around this. I really do. And they're saying it's not mandatory right now. Not mandatory right now. Okay. It won't be illegal to not have digital ID yet.
Yeah.
Yet. So,
All I'll say on that is, did you ever think that your government would tell you that you had to stay at home, you couldn't go out, you're restricted from entering certain places? It happened, and we all kind of forget that. And we can go, oh, but there was a good reason for it. But, governments can always find good reasons for control.
boom. Right, next on the agenda is the horrific, I might get very emotional right now, the horrific attack that happened in Manchester. So this is yesterday, Yom Kippur, to a synagogue in Manchester.
I'm really pissed off about this, Claire.
I am.
I'm really pissed off
Yeah,
because
I am.
we have been sitting here saying that this is the kind of thing that is going to happen because of what we have seen with our own eyes happening in the streets of London that is being tolerated. And I don't want to get into political argument
No, go
of
for it. Let's go for it.
the wrongs of rights of Israel and Gaza, but that is a political situation that is happening there. And people are taking broad brushstrokes. I mean, personally, we've got caught up in these pro-Palestine demonstrations where there have been banners basically supporting Hamas, saying like "Long live Hamas." That is a prescribed terrorist organization whose sole aim is destruction of Israel and death of all Jews. Christians next.
Next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen from the field to from the river to the sea, which is again it's a prescribed slogan.
People don't even know what they're saying, by the way.
It's actually called for the destruction of the state of Israel and the death of all Jews. We've seen people shouting "Death to Jews! Death to Jews!" There's people outside the Israeli embassy saying "Death to Jews," and nothing has been done. It has been tolerated. You have the guy at Glastonbury, death to the IDF. Nothing happened. Then we have that woman, who wrongly made a tweet about, go and burn a migrant hotel. She got 2 years in prison. We have a guy the other day. He just posted a meme that said, "Fuck Palestine," excuse my language, fuck Hamas. And the police arrested him in the middle of the night and took him to the station for posting that. Yet people are openly calling
for the death of Jewish people.
We see, and nothing is happening. And then we're surprised when this happens. It's
disgusting.
Yeah.
It is very real, and it should not be allowed on our streets. There is no place for this in Britain. Just because you have an opinion about what's going on with Israel's politics, you are brush stroking the Jewish community, the Jewish people, and it is disgusting. This is not 1940, it's 2025. And have we learned nothing? 80 years ago, have we learned nothing? There are Jewish, do you know what? We've just walked past Belsize Park tube station in central London. There are police standing out the side. Now, we're assuming, but I believe our assumptions are right, because we see all those young Jewish children piling out of the tube every single day at this time. And I believe that they're there to protect them. We know that there are security guards and police officers now patrolling synagogues because the Jewish people do not feel safe. There are swastikas. There is fuck the Jews up here in North London, which is a very, very Jewish area. It's in our public parks. Our friends are being abused on the street, saying you should be afraid to walk on the streets. This is not okay. I don't see this happening to any Russian people. I don't see anyone attacking Russian people because of what they're doing in Ukraine.
I think what was also distressing was, following what happened, then that evening, we have people taking to the streets in London under saying it was pro-Palestine, but it was not an organised thing. They just got together in an impromptu pro-Palestine. Let's be honest, I think Farage has called that out, and I don't want to agree with him all the time. He said that was people getting together to celebrate. Now, that is disgusting. Innocent people were killed. And people have gone out to celebrate in the streets. And also, I want to add, there was a lot of violence at that event between the police and the protesters. But you won't see, there's hardly anything in the news about it.
And, was it horrific what happened yesterday? Absolutely. Are we surprised? Absolutely not. 100% not. It was a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. So we are really, really, listen, we are not saying that we are getting involved in politics here. No. We're not getting involved in politics. And I hope that you can hear this and understand that we are separating what's happening in Israel and Gaza from anti-Semitism. They are not the same thing.
The issue is once you start to tolerate something, people think they can get away with it. And we're seeing this in a broader context, I think, with law and order generally. I was having a discussion the other day with someone that, you will see, I think in every town, that's certainly in London, but in every big town, people just going to supermarkets and clearing the shelves of booze and walking out, and no one's stopping them. Now, listen, we had this in New York, and it was the most dangerous city on earth. I think it was in the late 70s, early 80s, because there was this like every crime went unpunished, and people got emboldened. And I get it. If you walk in the supermarket and you steal a bottle of wine and nothing happens, then you go back and you steal a crate and nothing, and you go back and you just like fill a rucksack and walk out. It's like, well, actually, why would I ever pay for stuff? It's like there's literally no consequences for action. We see it with the phone grabbers. We see cases of serial criminals that are just like let off sentences. And it's the thin end of a wedge, because once we start to tolerate these small things, people get emboldened to go to the next step, the next step, the next step. And then we get all outraged. Oh, I can't believe that's happened. But the signposting is there.
It's a terrible, terrible pickle.
It is a terrible pickle.
It's a terrible pickle. We're going to lighten.
Yeah, we are. Because we have to be very political there. Let's go on the uplift now.
Do you know what though? I'll have to say I don't feel that is political, because I'm trying. I really, really do want to stress that we can separate the two. This is about being human. This is about a human response to something that happened, and people here, the British Jewish people, don't deserve this. So keeping it out of politics, it's not the same thing. They're just human beings that are being badly treated. Yeah. Right, next.
This is a big one. This is massive, right? It was the Women's Rugby World Cup recently. You probably weren't aware because it just didn't get enough coverage. But England, if you don't know, are basically regarded as a top team in the world. I think they're like nearly 30 games unbeaten now, and they went on to win the final over Canada. It was a record-breaking Twickenham crowd for a women's match. And I think it's just really amazing to see this huge upsurge in popularity, and to have something to celebrate. Like, winning a Rugby World Cup is massive.
I do think it's sad that, we're all about the women's football. I know we need to do one thing at a time. I understand that. But it just passed everyone by. The fact that we won. It's not the Euros. It's the World Cup. So well done, ladies.
Yes, well done.
Well done, ladies. And finally,
we have some news. We're always
that sounded very. I was like,
always honoured to receive an award. We've won many, and we just won another one. So we've been named Best Midlife Coaches UK, and we're so thrilled at that. We don't do what we do to get awards. We do it to change lives. I mean, I know that sounds cheesy, but it is a genuine thing. Every time I have a conversation with someone and they take something away that you can see, it's like,
I know,
that makes me feel good. So
it's about 20 now since 20 awards.
I think it is now 20 awards since 2019 across our retreats, our coaching.
And actually the stuff that we do in organisations as well, because this is like workplace wellbeing stuff as well. So it's really nice to be recognised for that too. And a lot of people were like, do you not pay for your awards? You pay for it. We haven't paid for one of those.
No.
Haven't paid for one of those. So thank you. It's massive gratitude to all of you for your love, for your support, for sharing us, your word of mouth, all of it. It's just really, really important to us and to the lives that we touch. And that's because of you guys.
I just have one more bit of exciting news, and it's my news. No, it's ours, because this was a joint effort. But my book, The Midlife Male Handbook, my publishers contacted me yesterday and said that they've done their first foreign rights deal. It's going to be launched in the Czech Republic. So they've sold the rights for foreign territory, Czech Republic. It's going to be available in Czech. That was so exciting.
Exciting. I was so proud of you, Mr. D. I really am. I just think that what you're doing in the midlife men's health arena is just so beautiful and so needed, unbelievably needed. So listen, guys, we are sending you so much love. That's Hot Topics wrapped up.
Hot Topics. I know that was a little bit heavy in places, but let's stay positive. Be the light you want to shine in the world, right? Like, it's our individual responsibility to be the best that we can be. By doing that, we hold a light for others.
We can make a difference. I know sometimes it's like, how can I make an impact here? Well, You absolutely can by being the best version of yourself. And I don't want that over positivity. We all have highs and lows, but striving to be the best version of ourselves, to give, to be kind, to be compassionate to others, to listen to other people's points of view, to not think you're always right, to not think it's always black and white thinking. Let's just get a bit of unity back in the world, please. Less division and more unity, more kindness. So anyway, sending you lots and lots of love. And as always, if there's anything that you would like us to share on a podcast, any people you'd like us to interview, anything you would like us to cover on hot topics, please let us know at team@themidlifementors.com. And we are sending you lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And don't forget to take the Midlife Reset Audit now to receive personalised insights into what's holding you back from living your healthiest, happiest midlife. So go ahead and take the audit now at themidlifementors.com/audit.